Welcome to Friends and Fiction. 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories. Novelists Mary Kay Andrews, Kristin Harmel, Kristy Woodson Harvey, and Patti Callahan Henry are 4 longtime friends with more than 70 published books between them. Together, they host Friends and Fiction, with author interviews and fascinating insider talk about publishing and writing, to highlight and support independent bookstores. They discuss the books they've written, the books they're reading now, and the art of storytelling. If you love books and you're curious about the writing world, you're in the right place.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Friends and Fiction Show. I'm Mary Kay Andrews.
I'm Kristin Harmel.
I'm Kristy Woodson Harvey.
And I'm Patti Callahan Henry.
And this is Friends and Fiction, 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories to support indie bookstores, authors, and librarians.
If you're not with us already, we hope you'll join our Facebook group, which is more than 250,000 members strong. That's over 250,000 avid readers. We'd also like to invite you to follow us on Instagram and YouTube, and to subscribe to our Substack newsletter, which is full of awesome bonus content. You can find out more about our community and all we have to offer at friendsandfiction.com.
With so many exciting things going on in our community, I want to remind you about our live and in-person events. We had such a blast at our most recent in-person Friends and Fiction Live in Atlanta, celebrating the launch of Patti's new book, The Story She Left Behind, which I'm going to just have to say was an instant New York Times bestseller. And we have not had a moment to celebrate that yet. So I think we kind of need to raise a little glass to
Cheers to The Story She Left Behind.
New York Times bestseller.
Patty.
Couldn't do it without you guys. No way.
Play cheers. That's the best kind. But it was probably all because of our event, right?
Of course. And our community and our readers and the people who show up. Everyone.
Yes. So be sure to mark your calendars because we have 2 more of these live in-person events coming up this summer. On Friday, May 30th, we will all be together in Myrtle Beach to celebrate my launch of Beach House Rules with the amazing Litchfield books. Then on Tuesday, June 17th, we will all be together again on the Jersey Shore to celebrate Kristin's The Stolen Life of Colette Marceau for an event hosted by Booktown at the Algonquin Theater in Manasquan. Tickets for both events are on sale now, so get yours right away before they sell out.
Speaking of which, I would love to announce the rest of my tour for The Stolen Life of Colette Marceau, which kicks off the night before the event in Manasquan with a pre-pub event in St. Pete, Florida, where MKA and I both grew up. So in the last 2 weeks of June, I'll be on the road. I'll be in Pennsylvania, Delaware, Ohio, Massachusetts, South Carolina, Indiana, California, and more. And I will be back in Florida for a second event too. So I hope to see you out there on the road, and you can see all my events at kristinharmel.com. But before I hit the road, Kristy has lots of amazing stuff coming up, starting with a big, huge paperback release. So Kristy?
That's right. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. Yes. So if you have not called A Happier Life yet, or even if you have, but you just like to be really thorough in your version, the paperback is releasing on April 29th. I keep saying it's April 30th, but it's not. It's April 29th. And my puppy dog Salt is on the cover. So there may or may not have to be a reenactment of this cover because if you've ever been to Beaufort, anyway, you'll see. It'll be on my Instagram. But I'm very excited about the paperback release. And I am touring a lot in the next couple of months. So I have a little stretch from like May 3rd through 8th, where I'll be touring sort of for the paperback and also to celebrate 10 years of being an author. And then the last week of May and the first week of June. And then I'll do another little week around Kristin's tour as well. So I think it's 15 states and like 34 events. So if you want to come see me, I might be in a state near you. So check out KristyWoodsonHarvey.com. If you want to know more about that, there's a little tour dates tab at the top. And thanks for all your support of A Happier Life. And if you want the paperback, you can pre-order now. I wouldn't hate it.
Click on bookshop.org. So before we move on to our guest, because we cannot wait to talk to Jeneva, we got to hang out with her in the green room, y'all, and you are in for a huge treat. Mm-hmm. I want to acknowledge a huge anniversary we are celebrating around these parts on the interwebs. This month, April 2025, marks 5 years of Friends in Fiction. Can you even believe it? What started on a whim because Mary Kay said, let's all get together and whine about being shut down. All of that and what we thought might last 6 weeks has been going strong and stronger for 5 whole years. Our first show was last night on April 15th, 2020. So let's raise a glass to celebrate a toast to 5 years of amazing author interviews on our web show and podcast, 5 years of an incredible community built on Facebook, Instagram, and Substack, and to 5 years of supporting independent booksellers, readers, and libraries all across the country and beyond. Here's to 5, y'all.
Here's to 5 years.
Thanks, I think the 5-year anniversary is styrofoam, right?
No, it is not. I don't know what it is, but I don't think it's styrofoam.
Okay. All right. On this episode, let's get to it, girls. On this episode, we are thrilled to welcome this month's featured Friends in Fiction author, Jeneva Rose, to discuss her new novel, our April 2025 pick of the month, The Perfect Divorce, which was just released on April 15th. Sean, bring on our girl.
Well, actually, we should talk about her first. We should tell everyone about Jeneva first, right?
Yeah, behind her back, we should definitely
talk about her behind her back, but not really because, anyhow. Yeah. So Jeneva Rose is the New York Times and USA Today bestselling author of several novels, including The Girl I Was, One of Us is Dead, You Shouldn't Have Come Here, and Home is Where the Bodies Are.
Geneva's breakout thriller, The Perfect Marriage, became a book talk sensation and earned her a loyal and massive fan base. The Perfect Marriage has sold more than 2 million copies, been translated into more than 24 languages, and been optioned for film.
Jeneva lives in Chicago with her husband, Drew, who we met in the green room, and her stubborn English bulldogs, Winston and Phyllis.
Her new book, The Perfect Divorce, was just released yesterday on April 15th, and our friend, author Karen Slaughter, calls it a riveting he said, she said thriller that will have you on the edge of your seat right from the very first page.
Yeah, and speaking of being on the edge of your seat, remember, y'all, tonight we're gonna take live questions. So make sure that you put your question in there, and Meg will feed them to us. So, Sean, now would you bring on Jeneva?
Hi.
Hi, Jeneva.
Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Welcome to the Friends in Fiction. We're so glad to have you here today. We'd love to have you tell us about what The Perfect Divorce is about, and then a favorite question of ours. What's it really about?
Yeah, so The Perfect Divorce, it takes place 1 year after The Perfect Marriage ends, and Sarah Morgan has returned. She is married to Bob Miller, but unfortunately they're headed for divorce because Bob had a one-night stand, and Sarah just wants to file for divorce. She wants to walk away with their daughter Summer and start life fresh. But Bob does not want to give up on their relationship. However, in the midst of their battle, the decades-old, or the case that was in the first one, the homicide case of Kelly Summers, is reopened due to newly discovered DNA evidence. And to make matters even worse, Bob's one-night stand goes missing. So it turns into this cat and mouse game of what's really going on behind the scenes, what are everyone's real intentions, and it's, will they achieve the perfect divorce? But it's only perfect if they both survive it. And so what it's really about, at its core, it's about trust. And can you really ever trust someone, or can the only person you trust is yourself? It's about betrayal, and it's about justice, not in a courtroom, but we all have our own moral compass, and what do we think is just? And it's also about family and love, and what you'd be willing to do for your family, or what would you be willing to do to, to stop someone from breaking up your family or keeping your family the way you want it to be kept.
Amazing. That's a great description. Okay, now as you mentioned, this is the sequel to your breakout thriller, The Perfect Marriage. Your protagonist, Sarah Morgan, is, just to put it bluntly, one tough dame. So did you always know you would return to continue her story, or was this a matter of reader demand?
I wanted to return to the story. I had an idea for how it would reopen when I finished writing The Perfect Marriage. I knew as soon as I finished writing that book back in 2017, I was not done with Sarah Morgan. But I did not want to write. I didn't know if I'd ever have the opportunity to write the sequel, because obviously there has to be some demand in order for a publisher to get behind it. And I knew I had that demand probably 2022, 2023. But I did not want to write it until I had not only the catalyst to open up the story, but a reason for these character stories to continue. And then I knew, because The Perfect Marriage, people love the twists and then the reveals, that I did not want to fall into the sequel curse of it not being as good as The Perfect Marriage. So I really made sure I had incredible twists and reveals and something that I would be proud of before I set out to actually write it. And that wasn't until late 2023, early 2024 that I was like, okay, I'm ready to write this book. And I think it'll be good.
You think?
You think? So far, actually, a lot of readers are saying that it's better than The Perfect Marriage, which is a little offensive.
What has Scott said? I think is
I'm waiting on his email.
Will you forward it to us when you get it? So
there will be a TikTok if he.
It's hilarious.
So you did not take the usual route to publication or to success, selling your first published book without an agent. A 30-second TikTok video with your husband acting out the plot of The Perfect Marriage that propelled the book to the number 3 slot on Amazon was obviously very pivotal in your career. So can you tell us about your rule-breaking approach to writing and publishing?
Yeah, so I've had over 400 rejections in my career, and I did not have that traditional path to begin with. The Perfect Marriage, I did end up getting an agent with it, and I thought my life was going to change. I have an agent, it's going to sell, and it didn't. Every publisher rejected it, some saying like no one wants to read a legal thriller unless it's written by John Grisham. And I was like, but it's not a legal thriller. There's only like one courtroom scene. And when that was all rejected, I left my agent. I started querying new books, and I just kept getting rejections, but I could not let go of The Perfect Marriage. I truly believed that if it got published with my marketing background, because I'd worked in digital and social media marketing for a total of 10 years, that I could get it in front of readers and I could market it. So I decided to submit it to publishers that accepted unagented submissions, and a very tiny UK publisher, digital first, print on demand, agreed that they would publish it, which meant they just kind of slapped a cover on it that I actually designed and threw it up on Amazon. But that was all I needed. That was like, okay, I can now market this book. And so with its very humble beginnings, it was never supposed to be in bookstores, to where it is now. It's been incredible, just, I don't know, whirlwind to see how much it's grown, and that it's surpassed, hurdles and achievements that it should have never gotten. Any of the achievements that it has, that it's in Target stores and Walmart, Barnes and Noble, and that it spawned a sequel or in a collector's edition is just, it's wild to me. It's very surreal that book has had the longevity it's had.
Well, we love watching it because we love when anything breaks the rules and then just explodes that way, Jeneva. So in 2024, Book Trib referred to you as the Taylor Swift of novelists for your connection with fans. And you were just mentioning, I knew what to do with the marketing because I'd been in it, where most of us are like, well, I don't know. What do we do? So talk to us about your approach to social media and online marketing and how you have been able to go viral and build such a loyal, your silly little geese, massive following. Tell us about how you used your marketing to do that in such an untraditional way.
Yeah. So in the beginning, I thought outside the box of I thought when I scrolled on TikTok or on Instagram, I will always pay attention to, why do I stop on a post? What makes me stop? What makes me watch a video? What makes me like it? What makes me leave a comment? And so I paid attention to those things. And that's what I did in marketing too, but I just applied it to my own personal things that I was trying to go after. And I would start thinking about even how does a person enter, on screen, or what is the first word they say, or what is their facial expression. And so it used to be very much like coming up with new trends. So like there was a book talk trend that I had started where you pretend that the book is the protagonist story is your own story. And then at the end you show the book. And that went mega viral. It was like 5 million views. So that's how I started. But once I started actually growing my readership and people were following me, not just because of, or now that they have read the book and they love the book and now they're like, okay, who are you? I didn't want my content to just be marketing content. I wanted to actually share my life, my husband, my dogs, my sense of humor. And so then it was just, I can just be myself. I can be raw. I can be authentic. I can share the ups and downs of this career. I can just be funny. And I think that's what has allowed me to get close to my readers and my readers to get close to me. And there's inside jokes that they know, that they can even catch my humor in my books, even in dark thrillers, because humor is normal, even in the darkest situations. I will throw it in there. So it's been a lot of fun actually having them get to know me beyond like the little bio and the photo on the back of the book. Like I feel like they actually do know me. We're at my events, they're like asking me about my pregnancy cravings, or like something I said in a live video, or something I said in some other thing I recorded. And I'm like, how do you guys remember all this?
Yeah, that's so great.
Well,
You brought everybody into your life is what you did. It's amazing.
Yes.
And I think what's awesome about that is I think it changes your experience reading a book when you feel like you have a personal relationship with the author. So, I think you just feel more attached to it. You can feel that author's voice coming through, their personality coming through. I mean, for me, it changes it when I'm reading a book of somebody that I know. So I'm sure you've given that experience to your readers. So I know that pre-COVID, before you even landed a book deal, you attended Thriller Fest for the first time. Can you talk to us a little bit about the impact of being at that conference and how that affected you and your trajectory? And in addition, why are organizations like the International Thriller Writers important for writers?
That helped me in so many ways because I felt like I was in publishing by myself almost, and trying to navigate a very weird industry that, like, unless you're in it, you don't really know what's going on. And I had no one to talk to about like, hey, is this normal? How my agent is, or how the publisher, and this was before I was actually published, how this agent is with me. So when I went there and I was able to speak to other authors on, their experiences, I realized, I don't have the right agent for me. This is not normal. That gave me the courage to leave my agent, my first agent, who I was with for 18 months, and realized that was not a good situation at all. And it was better to have no agent than that agent, at least for me. And so I think I would have just kept with it and kept thinking like, they know what's best. And I probably wouldn't have taken the leaps that I did take and went out on a limb and decided to just publish with a small publisher, because that was a risk in the sense that if I didn't have the sales to back it up, I could be pigeonholed with only small publishers, because now other publishers would look to my sales record when deciding if they wanted to publish future books of mine. But it really just allowed me to understand publishing from other authors' experiences. And so I always tell people, I'm like, even before you're published, when you're in the querying trenches, whether you have an agent, whether you're on submission, talk to other authors. And I lean on other authors. Other authors lean on me. I'm an open book. And because I'm like, there were people that were so transparent with me that helped me. And I try to be that with other authors too, where I share my experiences or even the things I ask for in my contracts. I'm like, you should ask for this too. Yeah. So I just think transparency is needed in a career that is very difficult to break into, difficult to maintain. And there's these high highs and these low lows. It's just as you all know, it's a very unusual career, and you need that camaraderie and those people to lean on.
Yeah, and one thing I think about joining those kinds of organizations is it's really one of the great things about writing genre fiction. If you're writing something that's hard to pigeonhole, then it's hard to find your tribe. So I totally agree with you there. Okay, Jeneva, talk to us. We'd love to hear about your writing process. Can you take us from the glimmer of an idea to the glorious finish? And then how do you manage those 10,000 words per week we've heard about? Oh my God, I'm such a slacker.
Well, in terms of my writing process, it's probably my writing process that allows me to do that when I am drafting. I will not start writing a book until I can summarize it in a sentence or two. I know that it's a book and it's my art and it's my creativity, but at the end of the day, it is a product. And I have to be able to tell someone else about it very quickly. We live in a very, very fast-paced world where people are ready to scroll to the next thing. We want short-form content, and that goes to for pitches too of what a book is about. So if I can summarize in a sentence or two, I know I can convey that to a publisher who can convey it to a reader. I can also do that on my own social media, and it helps keep the plot very commercial as I'm writing it. Then I like to write the back marketing copy. I come from marketing, so I really start at marketing before I start the story. And then I do character and setting sketches, and that's like doing all the research on the setting, doing research on like if it's a profession that the character is. I do like everything, like the basics, like what they look like and their demographics, all the way to like their backstory, what makes them tick, their quirks, hobbies, etc. And then I do a little bit of an outline. I will not fully outline. I usually know the big twist in the book. And I do a little bit, maybe it's half of the book, maybe it's bare bones. And that's so it allows the story to breathe and change if it needs to be. So I'm not stuck if it's not working. And then a lot of times I surprise myself as I'm writing with little twists that I throw in the reviews I had not planned or reveals I had not planned for. And then, yeah, once I have all of that information, I can write a book in about 2 to 3 months. And I try to stick to 2,000 words a day, 5 days a week, that Monday to Friday, to keep it normal with like friends and family of what their jobs look like, so that I'm available on the weekends and on nights. Because when I started in this career, it was all nights and weekends outside of my full-time job writing. And now I just try to keep it as this is my full-time job. And this is what I do during the day, Monday to Friday.
Amazing.
Okay. Yeah. To follow up, tell us about the secret sauce of writing a thriller, because you've written other genres. Tell us, I mean, you know, I think we all want to know, where does that out of nowhere plot twist come from? And also you've talked about the artful use of red herrings.
Yeah. So I think the secret sauce of a thriller is, I mean, when I really think about, I wanted to write thrillers and because I loved to read thrillers. So I was writing what I loved to read. So my first book wasn't a thriller. That was the book I wrote to prove to myself that I could write a book, and then to work through the grief of losing my mom. When I decided, I was like, I love writing books, I'm going to keep writing. My second book, I was like, I want to write what I want to read. And that was thrillers. And so when I write them, I make sure they're fast paced. I love short chapters. I think that goes back to just attention span, my own attention span. I know that if I see a long chapter, I'm like, I got to set aside 20, 30 minutes, but a short chapter, I'll rip through half a book because I'm like, just 2 more pages, just 3 more pages.
Yeah.
I love multiple points of view. And I think that's fun for keeping it engaging. So when you end on a point of view, it's like this cliffhanger and you can't wait to get back to them. But now you've got to go through another point of view and another point of view. And each of those you can't wait to get back to. And then I love a big twist and I love reveals throughout. And I think that's all of that combined is the secret sauce to a thriller, and making sure they're characters that maybe you can't fully root for because you know they're not great, but they're fully developed and you feel like you know them. You feel like they could leap off the page. So I really focus on making all of my characters very unique and that they can stand on their own as well.
I love that. Okay, so we're going to switch a little bit from your writing. So let's pretend you have an all expenses paid week at the beach, at a beach resort with no commitments and no newborn yet. What does Jeneva Rose pack to read?
To read? Like right now, if I was going, I would pack probably books that are on my TBR that I've not been able to get to yet. I have an advanced reader copy of Lisa Jewell's next book, so I would pack that.
Yeah.
I also have Lane Fargo's The Favorites that's been sitting on my shelf that I've been meaning to read. I would pack that. I'm trying to think. I have quite a few. 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It's been on my shelf, and I've been meaning to read it. I've read all of her other her backlist, Taylor Jenkins Reid, but I have not read that for some reason. It's because I had so many books to blurb, but I would pack that because it's been there for a while that I really need to read it. It's probably just I've been sitting there, or their advanced reader copies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a good list. Okay, so let's discuss the ultimate real life plot twist, which is book touring as you move into your third trimester with your first child. So, are you, first of all, I have to ask, are you just trying to make the rest of us feel like wimps? I mean, because we whine about book tour, but you were talking about it backstage, and I'm like, oh man, we've got nothing to whine about. So, seriously, can you tell us a little bit about the decision to tour so far into your pregnancy and why it's so important to you to still get out on the road and meet your readers?
I like when we started having the conversation, like that conversation had to start in December, January, and I found out in November that I was expecting, and I knew I would be end of second trimester, entering third trimester. And I talked to a lot of like my friends because I didn't know how I would feel, the ones that have had kids, like how was it during second trimester, like right before, like right into third. And they were like, it's kind of a sweet spot, usually typically, unless there's any, issues for your energy's back. Yeah, you're achy and whatnot, but at least your energy is back. And then they were like, it might be good because then when the third trimester hits, you're not going to want to go out as much. And then obviously when you have the newborn, you're not really going out. And so like, it might be really nice for you to get out there. And I didn't know how I would react or how I would be or how I would feel. But I decided because The Perfect Marriage was the book that gave me my career. It was the book that gave me my dream, made my dreams come true, that because this was the sequel to that book, I wanted to be there for my readers. I was like, my gift to you is me in real life, bloated and achy. You are welcome. So I just wanted to do it because I was like, I know people are expecting it. They would understand if I didn't. But I just thought it would be a really great way to I never got that experience with The Perfect Marriage, and to have it with The Perfect Divorce, I thought was perfect.
Absolutely.
Getting out on the road is so important. I'm just now finishing a month on the road. Kristy's about to start. Then Kristin's hitting the road. Mary Kay is constantly out there meeting her readers. And I think that was one of the hardest things about COVID was that, and why we started Friends in Fiction, because readers are the lifeblood of what we do. So to get out there in your third trimester is amazing. I do want to say, before I talk to you about this next thing, I am fascinated that you write your flap copy first. I feel like I don't know enough about the book until I'm finished the book to do that. And I do try to have a 2-liner, but I'm going to play with that idea. That's really interesting. I think it really helps you solidify what your story's about.
I don't think anyone's ever said that before.
No, that's why I'm like, I'm not letting that one go.
But now that I think about it, that's how I usually sell my books.
It's like,
how do you sell your book?
It's being able to say, like, I can say it from the beginning while I'm writing it, what my book is about. I mean,
it might be different, but I feel like I try to do like a little something, but I don't know. But it usually doesn't end up that way, I guess, for me.
Yeah, sometimes it gets a little tweaked and a little changes in there, but I really enjoy writing that, in which any publisher I work with, they were just like, oh my God, I love that you write this, because that's one less thing they have to do.
Well, I think it's fascinating. And I think it's something to tap back on when you're lost or not sure. It's a touchstone. Let me thinking about that. All right. We know that you have written in other genres, including what you talked about, women's fiction and also romance, and that you've also written under the pen name J.R. Adler. And you even have an audio comedy thriller series that you wrote with your husband under contract. So do you have a preferred lane, or do you enjoy all this diversification?
Thrillers are definitely my bread and butter. That's what I really like to write. The way that these other things came about, like writing romance, it was an editor at Montlake, one of Amazon's imprint, that contacted me, that she had read The Perfect Marriage, You Shouldn't Have Come Here, and The Girl I Was. And she was like, I think you can write romance. Would you be interested in doing that? And I said, oh my God, you guys have rejected me like 6 times and now you're coming to me. I would absolutely love to. So that was like how it came about. And I was just like, that's amazing. I was so flattered, and I pitched some ideas. And the first one was more of a sweet romance that came out. And then the next one, I was like, when I pitched it to her, I said, I know it's weird, but I'm excited about it. And she was like, if you're excited, then we're excited. And that's my post-apocalyptic zombies, enemies to lovers romance. And they are psyched for it. They've read it. It's all done. All edits are done. And they're just like, I can't believe this is what you wrote after It's a Date Again, which was my sweet romance book.
Do you feel more comfortable in one or the other? Like, or is the writing feel, and do you use the same process for all these different, like when you sat down to write the zombie and the romance and the women, did you use the same process that you use when you're writing fiction, or does even that change?
No, it was the same process for each one. I have that same process. The only one that was maybe a little bit different was the audio original my husband and I wrote. And that was because it wasn't written like an actual manuscript. It was written like a script. So we even wrote it in final draft, and it's only dialogue. And then we actually had to insert, rather than stage direction, it's the sound FX, which was actually,
wow, that's amazing.
We're like, okay, how can we, make the or the listener understand that they are over here now? And it's like, oh, we did like with alarms in there where it's like side door open, which is what we had in Chicago. Really creepy alarm system. Front door open.
I had that.
Yeah, it's so creepy.
Back window open. What?
What? Yes. So otherwise the process was the same for all of them. That one was a little different. It was because we were collaborating too. So it was taking into what he wanted to do and what I wanted to do and bringing it all together.
And all of these are different publishing houses. So how does it feel to be under contract at multiple houses simultaneously? It's different teams, it's different editors, it's different. That's a juggling act that I think would be, for me, really hard. Yeah.
So like in the beginning, when I had like these opportunities to write for different publishers, and I know a lot of times publishers are like, you can only write for us. And like, no, like the non-compete, that was one thing I was like, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. Sure. I was breaking into this industry in a very different way. I did not have the traditional book publishing deal where I knew someone was going to back me. And even then, even if you have that, you don't really know if they're going to back you because you're still responsible for marketing and advertising and all that. But I decided I was just like, it would be a really good learning experience to work with so many teams and learn from them the pitfalls, like what they did really well that worked, what they didn't do well that worked. And it's gotten me to a point too where I know, like, when I'm asked, what do you want in a publisher? I know what I want in a publisher. The things I did not like at all, maybe like communication styles or what they expected of me or vice versa, and things that really worked well. I used to do this thing where I'm like, I'm ranking all of you guys. You're at the bottom of the list this week.
That email you didn't answer, you just moved down. Sorry.
Wait. Would you say that, or were you just thinking it in your head?
No, I would say it, but I joke around a lot. I'm never like serious, but I would be like, okay, you guys have moved down a spot. This one's up here now.
That's amazing.
It was mostly joking, but sometimes I would be like, they really are down here.
Yeah, they really are not doing. They're losing Geneva privileges.
They're losing it.
That's what I was like, they are losing Patti privileges.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of questions coming in. Who wants to? Kristy, you want to take the first one?
Yes. Sorry. I was just so busy listening that I wasn't paying attention.
Were you ranking publishers?
Yeah, I was like, I've only had two, so I don't have too much to go back. I think that's brilliant. All right, so Carrie Soderman says, do your characters suggest changes to you? I like that.
I think so a lot of times what helps me actually write quickly is I do writing sprints, and I don't know, I have to make things into a game. Otherwise I don't want to do it. And that's like with everything. It's like, oh, I have to do a bunch of household chores. I'm going to time myself to see how fast I can do them. And I do the same thing with my writing where I do a writing sprint, 15 minutes to see how much I can write in 15 minutes. And then I'll set the clock again and keep doing that and trying to beat my score. But that's what makes it where a lot of things come about that I did not plan for, or things characters do, or what they say. And it's really like kind of getting like, I'm just writing and I'm not thinking about it. And it's whatever's coming first, that's where those changes do happen. And I do think they come from the characters and the actual plotting itself and the story itself. It takes on a life of its own.
Because you're not overthinking.
You're not like, this sentence has to be perfect. I'm like, no, it has to just get down. I'll fix it later.
Yeah.
That's so great when you're like in the flow like that. And I'm sure it keeps you from getting writer's block too, because you don't have time. You're just like, what, let's just keep going. Let's be in it.
I got to beat my words. Yeah.
Kristy, you want to ask a question? You want to pick one?
Sure. Susan Gowd and Kathy Brewer Johnson are both asking, what was Geneva's inspiration for The Perfect Marriage?
I don't have a lot of my book ideas, they do come from situations or something happens or I witness something or I'm having a conversation and I say, wouldn't it be crazy if? And then all of a sudden the story, it's like I'm thinking it and I have like a hook of a plot. The Perfect Marriage is the one I don't have like a really cool moment that happened. My older brother and I were writing screenplays like back in like between 2009 and 2011. And we were writing comedy screenplays. They never went anywhere. It was kind of a hobby. And I wanted to write a thriller because I was like, oh, I want to write a thriller script. And it literally popped into my head where I was like, a top criminal defense attorney faces her most challenging case when she vows to defend her husband, a man accused of murdering his mistress. And I said that, and my brother was like, that was weird. My brother was like, that's The Fugitive. And I was like, oh, is it? And he's like, yeah, that's The Fugitive. And I was like, oh, that's weird. I'm like, oh, that sucks. That's a shame that it's already a movie. And I had never seen it, but I wrote it down in my little notebook. And then when 2017 came around and I wanted to write a thriller, that idea came back to me. And I saw it in my notebook of my story ideas. And I was like, okay, well, first I have to watch The Fugitive to make sure I'm not rewriting this plot. And so I went to Family Video. I rented it on DVD, came home. It was too scratched up to play. So then I had to actually rent it on Amazon and pay like $5. I finished it. It is nothing like my idea. And I called up my brother and I was like, thanks a lot. Like I could have written this a while ago and now I'm finally going to write it. And he takes credit for my career where he'll be like, well, if you would have written it like 6-7 years before, it probably wouldn't have been as good. You've grown a lot as a writer. So
That's funny.
That's spoken like a true brother. I love that.
All right. I have a question from Michelle Marcus. She says, what thrillers do you, Jeneva, recommend for a reader who's kind of new to the genre and looking for something like yours, but not too gritty?
I would say, I don't think mine are gritty, but like ones that were like, when I fell out of love with reading, which was like college, when they made me college and high school, I fell out of love with it for a while because they made me read books I didn't want to read. And then it took me a while to get back into it. And I was like, oh yes, I love thrillers. I forgot that I love thrillers. And some of the first books I read was like The Last Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine. Some of John Marr's books.
Okay.
Now I'm blanking. Oh my God. I'm blanking, but there were.
Kathy, you read a lot. Mary Kay, you read a lot of thrillers.
Well,
that aren't that gritty.
Laura Lippman isn't terribly gritty.
Okay.
And
Is Harlan considered a thriller or a mystery?
I think he borders on both, right?
Yeah, I think he borders on both. He doesn't get too gritty. Karen Slaughter, now she gets gritty.
I love her book.
She is down in it.
Yes.
Lisa Scottolini's new one is great. And it's not, it's like very psychological, but it's not too like,
Yeah.
JT Ellison, she does good thrillers with
yeah. A lot of good
Lisa Gardner, she does good ones that I don't think they're not that gritty.
Yeah. There you go. Michelle, you've got a whole bunch of ideas.
Yeah.
I have pregnancy brain, so I can't think of anything these days.
No,
we always joke about this. It's like we read 1 million books a week, and then someone will be like, "What are you reading?" And it's like we've never heard of an author or
a book.
That's true.
Menus mostly.
Yeah, I just finished Karen Slaughter's The Arc of her summer book called We're All Guilty, and let me tell you, it's slamming. It's slamming. I
want an arc of that one.
Yeah, I turned the last page and I emailed her and I was like, "You bitch."
Oh, Meg's reminding us about Lisa Unger as well, of course. Yes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Great thrillers.
Yeah, Lisa Unger, really, those are so suspenseful. Okay. Heidi Jeannie Engel says, does The Perfect Divorce stand on its own, or do you really have to have read The Perfect Marriage?
I think it does stand on its own, and I had a beta reader read it who had not read The Perfect Marriage to make sure. But she read it, and then it spoils The Perfect Marriage. So then she went back and read The Perfect Marriage after, and she said, I understood everything in The Perfect Divorce because I have a transcript at the beginning that really catches the reader up on what has happened, and the information that happens in The Perfect Marriage slowly unfolds. But she was like, oh, if I would have read that, I think it would have been a more enjoyable reading experience. And I would have appreciated the characters way earlier, knowing what happened in the previous novel. So I'd recommend The Perfect Marriage first, but you can read The Perfect Divorce as a standalone.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, that is a lot. Jeneva, if you will, well, we've already asked about hey, what is the name of the zombie post-apocalyptic romance bonkers book?
It's called Dating After the End of the World.
Oh,
And
I
that's
like that.
Great
And that's
title.
out when?
Yeah,
September 30th.
I have seen that. I'm remembering now.
Say it again.
September 30th.
Okay, everybody, September 30th. Put it on your calendars. Okay, Jeneva, if you'll stick around, we have more to talk to you about. But first, a few quick reminders for our listeners and our viewers out there.
I want to talk to Jeneva, but I'm going to talk to you out there listening and viewing. We encourage you to rush out right now. We'll wait till the end of the show and buy your copies of The Perfect Divorce. And the perfect place to do that is the Friends and Fiction Shop on bookshop.org. You'll not only be getting it at a discount, but all of your purchases there support the show, our guests, and independent bookstores nationwide, which is why we started the show in the first place.
And don't forget to visit friendsandfiction.com for details on our show schedule, upcoming in-person events, and links to the award-winning Friends and Fiction official book club with Brenda and Lisa, our merch store, and our Substack newsletter sign-up. Speaking of the book club, don't forget they are hosting Patti on Monday night, April 21st at 7 p.m. Eastern, live on their Facebook group page to chat about the story she left behind.
And speaking of our Substack, you can read all our free weekly posts on the Substack website or app, or subscribe for free and get them directly in your inbox. And if you upgrade to our paid Substack, which costs just $5 a month, you'll have access to deeper dives with all our weekly show guests like Jeneva, plus monthly roundtable discussions like the super fun one MKA just did about rom-coms, plus bonus Q&As with additional authors like the recent ones we ran with Renee Rosen, Lisa Unger, and Chris Bajalian. If you enjoy tuning in for our weekly author interviews, this is a big way you can support us for about $1 a week. So check us out at friendsandfiction.substack.com.
Okay, we had one more question that I know people want to have us answer. Michelle Marcus asked it. Jeneva, is your husband Drew a writer too?
We've only co-written the one project, but he hasn't decided if he wants to write something on his own or if we'll co-write again. I have too many things under contracts. We have not been able to do another collaboration project, but we had a lot of fun doing that one.
The baby is a collaboration, I would say.
That's true.
Collaboration.
Definitely. Okay, Jeneva, before we let you go, where else can we catch you on the road? And how do we connect with you online? I think most of the people are watching tonight already know that, but there might be some strangers.
So I'm on TikTok and Instagram at Jeneva Rose Author. And then I do have a Facebook reader group called Jeneva Rose's Convention of Readers. I call them my silly gaggle of geese. And that's where I post things that I don't post on my more public platforms. So it is a private group. And I'm a lot more active in there. My husband's an admin, and he is very active in there too.
That's awesome.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. And you can see all of Jeneva's tour stops on her social media. It was so much fun talking to you tonight. And thanks for being with us. And take care of yourself out on the road.
Please.
Thank you so much. It was great chatting with you all.
Yeah.
Oh, we love
We
it.
love
All right.
you, Jeneva.
Thank you.
To all of you out there, be sure to tune in next week when Mary Kay and I will welcome Jasmine Guillory to discuss her new novel, Flirting Lessons. That show will air on the Friends and Fiction Facebook page and YouTube channel on Wednesday, April 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern. And it'll be published to our podcast for your listening pleasure on Friday, April 25th.
Now, listen, y'all stay with us because we're going to do a little after show tonight. We got some stuff to catch you up on. So don't go anywhere.
Thank you for tuning in. You can join us every week on Facebook or YouTube, where our live show airs on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram. We're so glad you're here.
We're back.
Here we are.
You
Nice.
didn't look too worn out after being on the road for so long. Catch us up. What were the high points and what were the low points?
I am just now absorbing it. I think Mary Kay, one time you said you had a post-mortem meeting on book tour, and I'm not there yet. I have a whole bunch. I still have some more coming up, but it was incredible, to be honest. I couldn't have done the first 10 days without Meg. She was with me the whole time. For example, one day we landed and I had an event in 45 minutes. I jumped in an Uber and ran to the event, and she picked up the luggage in the car. And it was teamwork making the dream work, but it was incredible and exhausting and grueling, and 3 a.m. alarms and delayed flights and everything that book tour is made of. Sugar and spice and everything nice, and then a dash of hot pepper. But it was amazing seeing our community out there. Meg and I talked about it so much. Like everywhere you turned, there was the Friends in Fiction community, from California to Indiana to Missouri to Ohio to North Carolina, South Carolina. Y'all are simply amazing. Oh, well, hitting the New York Times list was a highlight. We were driving. I'll tell you this story real quick. We're driving down the highway. We were flying driving fast. We got the same rental car at every single stop. 4 different rental cars, exact same rental car all 4 times. It was hilarious. It was like they put in a request. We got the Nissan Rogue Silver.
That's so weird.
Yeah, too.
That's a good one, though. That's a good one
because it could hold all our shit. Yeah. So we're driving down the highway and we're about 20 minutes from the next event, and we are going to make it by the skin of our teeth when we got the call. So I was driving, so I was trying to drive, and Meg said we were going rogue the whole time. That's funny. So I was crying, and Meg was like, pay attention to the road. And she was crying. And because we'd worked so hard the last 10 days, we hadn't slept. So that night we went out for a very late dinner, which you guys know I don't like doing, and had sushi and champagne. And that was a definite highlight. So, but now it's y'all's turn. It's your turn.
I know. I'm kind of nervous. I'm really gone. Like, I don't think I'm home a full week until July, which is kind of crazy.
Oh, wow.
You know how like sort of sneaks up on you a little bit?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Who
did you say at the beginning when we were talking about it, did you say 35 events? Yeah. You got a lot coming up, baby. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I always get nervous before. And then like once I'm out on the road and I get going, I have so much fun, but it's broken up. Like I have a week and then I come home for a few days. And then I have and part of it is because we wanted to do I'm doing a little bit for the paperback and I'm doing a little bit for my 10-year anniversary. And they just happen to be bap. So it's like the 2nd through the 8th and then the 13th through the 16th and then the 25th through the 7th and then the 14th through the
I can't believe you can just rattle off those dates like that.
I know. I didn't. People would say, where are you going to be tomorrow? And I'd be like, let me look.
I don't know where I am right now.
To memorize the schedule, when you get to that, okay. And I really only have it memorized for that, that really initial part. But anyway, but it'll be fun.
Well,
and
we're excited. I can't wait for everyone to read this book.
I'm super excited for Kristin's launch because I feel like we'll all be together for that. And then Kristin and I are going to do an event together in Rehoboth.
Yeah, it'll be great. What's so fun about that is it'll be just a few weeks after we've all been together for your launch. 2 weeks after. It comes right on the heels of it. So
Kristy and I are doing an event together in Atlanta at Poe and Company, and then Kristin, you and I are doing an event together.
Yes. Yep, exactly. It's gonna be a lot of time, the 4 of us in different combinations together in May and June, which is awesome.
Right. And Patti and I are doing something together too.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
We're doing something in June. Yep.
I was actually looking at part of my tour today, and I was thinking, and Ron's always game. God bless him. And we're doing 2 events together, and I was thinking, wonder if Ron would let me send him some luggage.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Of course he would. Yeah.
Yeah, if you ever,
How did he get caught up?
if y'all are wondering at home how we do this tour stuff, you know, sometimes the longest tour I ever did was 6 weeks, and I think I perfected the art of shipping home my dirty clothes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I shipped home a whole box of dirty clothes about day 9 or something. Yeah.
I remember coming home. I did 6 weeks one time. It was 2019. And I remember coming home and being like, do you remember that like Louis Grizzard? It was like, if I ever get back to Georgia, I'm going to nail my feet to the ground. I was like, if I ever get back to North Carolina, I will never leave Beaufort again. Like if I can just get home. I mean, 6 weeks was long. I probably will not ever do 6 weeks again.
Yeah. It was 4 weeks for me with 2 nights on my own pillow. So
Yeah.
You had a very long tour this time.
Yeah.
it was grueling.
My longest stretch is only like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And Kristin, yours, you ready? Like you finally nailed it down. So
Yeah. You know, we've had most of it nailed down for a while. There were just a couple of little things we were trying to iron out before announcing. So I'm just happy to be able to finally say, like, this is where I'm going. This is where I'm going to be. Because it's like, it's been in my head for a long time, but I wasn't supposed to talk about it. I'm excited, though. It's only going to be 2 weeks. I mean, of course, I'll be out at other events. I'm going to be in Colorado next week. I'll be in Charleston, actually, at the beginning of May. Of course, I'll be at Kristy's thing in at the end of May. But for my actual book tour for the last 2 weeks of June, it's only 2 weeks. But you know, I'm going to coast and places in the middle, and I'm excited. It's some places I haven't been before on tour, which is a real pleasure too.
And everybody's in for a treat because it's talking and walking, Kristin, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, I assume you're referring to my leg. It's funny. We were talking earlier in the evening before we came on for this broadcast about things we would tell our younger self. And I was thinking I would probably just skip all the writing advice and tell my younger self, do not get on a pogo stick in your 40s.
not jump.
Like, what is wrong with you?
After 30 years old, don't jump on a pogo stick.
Exactly.
How are you now? How is your leg?
It's improving. I can do short distances without a cane now, which is a big improvement, but only very short distances. It is improving more slowly than I hoped it would, but it is improving. And it's not for lack of trying. So at least I have that knowledge. At least I know I'm putting everything I can into the healing process. But my physical therapist here said it takes 3 days for every 1 day you were non-weight bearing. And I was non-weight bearing for 9 weeks. So that basically means it's about 6 months of recovery, which is longer than I was thinking. So, you know, it's frustrating. It hurts.
I'm so sorry. So frustrating.
And it's limiting. It's so, you know what, everyone out there who can walk distances without thinking about it, just pat yourself on the back right now and just say, you know what, good for me for being able to do that, because it's something we take for granted, and I can't do it right now.
When I broke my ankle and it was healing and I was whining about how long it took and the pain, I said, remember, it's the body part that is the farthest from your heart.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. It just takes so long.
It does.
To heal. And we have no control. We can't make it heal faster.
Yeah. No, you're right.
I
You're
listened
right.
to
Sorry,
Carrie
Kristin,
Soto is back, and that helped me.
What did you say?
I remember listening to Carrie Soto is back, and like that helping me because she is training. She's like 35 or 6 or whatever, and she's like training to try to get back into professional shape. And I would be like riding my little bike like the longest, like outside, like, oh, I've got this. It's like a mile. And she was like, you know, running wind sprints for 2 hours. I can't explain it. It was like inspiring to me.
That's funny.
All right, everybody. It looks like it's time to go. Patti says it's dinner time for her. So
I'm starving, and I really have to use that.
And Mary Kay, you are disappearing into the night.
I know. I'm on the face of ebb tide, and literally the light is ebbing. So that's
just like you're bye, Mary Kay.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming tonight.
A belated happy Passover and an early happy Easter to everybody.
You too. Bye.
Bye.